of the guy on the inside, the guy who's the Bal Habayit on the inside, how he violates the Shabbat by taking something from the inside and giving it to the guy on the outside, or taking something from the outside and putting it on the inside. So that's what our Gemara is talking about now. Poshet balabayit et yodo l'chutz. If the balabayit, Adam, you got it? 282, top of the tape. If the you know French, Adam, or not?
No, I'm following along
the Hebrew. Aramaic. If the balabayit put his hand outside and he had something in his hand, he had an item, let's say he had bread, and he placed it in the hand of the poor man. So that's called, it went from private domain, the bread, which is called the Reshut HaYachid, and it went to Reshut HaRabim, and it went to a public domain. Oh, shenatal mitocha, or he took from the man outside v'hichnis, and he brought it inside, right? So we have two cases. The guy from the inside went from the item, both cases, this case went from the inside to the outside, or the item went from outside inside, right? He took his hand, right, Adam, the guy from the inside, bless you, took his hand and he took something from the guy outside and he brought it in. So in those cases, balabayit chayav the ani patur. The balabayit is chayav. The one who went, took from the inside and gave it outside, or took from the outside, brought it inside, he is chayav. And the poor man, in such a case, who was passive, is patur, is exempt, right? Those are the two cases. Now the Mishnah is going to talk about the cases that they're both going to be patur. David, we're up to now the point of pashat ha'ani et yodo lifnim. The poor man stretched his hand inside. The poor man had, let's say, something in his hand, and he put his hand and he moved his hand inside with the item, but he did not hand it over to the guy on the inside. Rather, the guy on the inside, we'll call him the balabais, took from the hand of the poor man. So we got the case, David. I wonder if you got the case. Let's get the case, right? The guy on the outside went ahead and put his hand inside. Let's say he had a sefer in his hand, and he put his sefer and he put it inside, but he didn't hand it off to the guy on the inside. The guy on the inside took it from him, right? So therefore, the guy on the outside did one part of the malacha, right? The outside guy did one part of the malacha. Thank you, David. He went ahead and he did the akira. He uprooted the item from outside. He had the sefer, and he went ahead and he moved it to the inside, but he didn't place it down on the inside. And they shared in the act, correct. Oh, shenatan l'tocha. Well, let's say the guy on the inside handed the bread to the poor man, but he didn't hand it to him on the outside. If he would have handed it to him when the poor man was outside, then the guy on the inside did the whole thing. He did the act of uprooting the item and he placed it down by giving it to the poor man outside. However, the poor man's hand was inside the house, and the guy on the inside gave it to the poor man on the inside when the poor man's hand was inside the house. So in that case, the guy on the inside only uprooted the item, but he did not place it down in public property. He placed it in the hand of the poor man whose hand was actually in the private property. Adam, do we got the case clear or not? Yeah. So then we say v'hichnis v'hotzi, and then the poor man took his hand out from inside private property and he brought it outside. Shnehem peturim. Like they're both exempt, but not one person did a full malacha. Not one person did a full act. Then the Mishnah states another case. Pashat balabayit et yodo l'chutz. Mori Levi. If the balabayit put his hand outside, he put his hand, he had the bread in his hand. He didn't hand it to the poor man outside. If he would have handed it to the poor man, then he did both the uprooting and the placing down. But what did he do? He put his hand outside with the bread, and the poor man finished the job. The poor man took it from his hand. Oh, shenatan l'tocha, or the poor man on the outside gave the man on the inside. Again, the man on the inside took his hand outside into public property, and the poor man gave him the sefer while the guy on the inside's hand was outside. So the poor man only uprooted the item. He didn't bring it into place it into private property because the guy in the inside's hand was outside, and he gave it to the guy's hand while it was outside. So in that case, okay, let's see this case again. Yes. So in this case, again, Shnei and Peturim, they are both exempt because each one did a half of a malacha. Now, if you do your math, how many cases do we have here in the Mishnah? I mean, the Mishnah stated that there are two cases, Adam, which we sent to the group that we're on. The Mishnah stated there are two cases that there is a biblical violation. There are two cases for the guy that there's a biblical violation for the guy inside. There are two cases there's a biblical violation for the guy outside, right? And we said there are an additional two cases that are rabbinically prohibited for the guy inside, and the additional two cases that are rabbinically prohibited for the guy outside, right? So there's a total of four cases, two biblical on a Torah level forbidden, two rabbinic for each guy. But there's more cases than this in the Mishnah. The Mishnah gave, more than a total of four cases. Now, it's true. The cases that are biblically prohibited are the cases when the guy on the inside either hands it to the guy on the outside, or the guy on the inside takes from the guy outside and puts it in. And the same thing for the guy on the outside, if he hands it to the guy inside, or he takes from the guy inside and takes it outside. The biblical cases are very clear. There are only two cases that the guy on the outside could violate the Torah. And there's two cases the guy on the inside could violate the Torah, right? That's clear. But there's more than two cases for each guy. The cases of a guy doing one part of the act, the Mishnah mentioned more than two cases for each guy. Because the Mishnah mentioned, if you analyze the cases, the Mishnah said the guy, the balabayit, the owner of the house, stuck his hand outside, right? Let's go the order of the Mishnah. The poor man on the inside put his hand inside, and the balabayit, the owner of the house, took from that hand. So that poor man did one part. Okay. Case two is that the owner of the house gave it to the poor man when the poor man's hand was inside, and the poor man took it outside. So here's two cases that the poor man did only one part. And then the third case of that, toward the end of the Mishnah, we have another case 3 and case 4 are also where one part of the malacha was done. So really we have four cases for each guy that each guy did only one part. So why is it that the Mishnah says there are two cases that are rabbinically prohibited when there's really four cases? So that's what Rashi deals with. And Rashi says that the Mishnah is only counting the cases that you could actually do when you do the first part of the act. The first part of the act is called nakira, the uprooting of the item. When you start something, you have the ability to finish it. And therefore, that's where the greater concern is. The greater issue is when you do the akira, right? We said it's a two-step process. In order to violate the Torah's prohibition of taking an item from private to public or public to private, it has to be an uprooting, we call it an akira, and then a placing down. When if you only end it, you only do as part two, you never have the ability to violate the Torah law if you only get into the game at the second part. But if you get into the game in the first part, then if you get to first base, you get to second base. But if you're coming off the bench as a pinch hitter, you never got the first, to run for the guy. You only came in after the initial, the guy got on base. So the Gemara says we're only going to count the acts that the guy who did the first part of the malacha. There are two cases where the guy on the inside did the first part of the malacha. There are two cases that the guy on the outside did the first part of the act. And that act, the first part, if you do the first part, you might come to do the what? The second part, you might come to the biblical violation. If you're only doing the second part, the second part does not lead to the first part. It's only the first, Adam, am I clear? It's only the first part that can lead to the second part. Therefore, we only count those two cases that the guy on the outside did the first part. What will be the case? The guy on the outside hands it, the guy on the inside sticks his hand out, and the guy on the outside hands it to him. While the guy, so that's, he did one part. That would be one of the cases that the guy on the outside did the first part of the malacha, and the other case would be is the guy on the outside sticks his hand in, and the guy on the inside takes it from the guy on the outside. So again, the guy on the outside did both. Those are two cases that he did the first part of the malacha. Similarly, the guy on the inside, there's two cases he did the first part. The guy on the inside sticks his hand outside, and he could have finished the job. And after he stuck his hand outside, the guy on the outside took it from him, or the guy on the outside stuck his hand inside, and the guy on the inside placed it in his hand inside. So again, the guy on the inside did the first part of the act. So that's the only thing that we are counting. That's what the Gemara says, and that's why. Good morning, Ralph.
Morning, Rabbi.
Right, that both of them should take. Right, and the guy. What happened was the guy on the inside handed it. If the guy on the outside stuck his hand inside, and the guy on the inside gave it to the guy on the outside while the guy on the outside's hand was inside. And then the guy outside brings it out. But since the guy on the outside did not uproot the item, it was placed in his hand while his hand was inside. There's no obligation violation of the Torah, and there's only a partial violation on each side, and that will be a rabbinic. Each one did half of the act, and therefore it would be rabbinically prohibited, and they were only counting that part, the cases where the guy actually starts the act, the act, because that's the case that we're going to count. That's what we are counting. Okay, now comes the Gemara. We're now on 2A3. 2A3. Tanan Hatan. We learned over there, this is the first Mishnah. The Gemara is now quoting in Mishnah in Masechta Shavuot, and you're going to see it has a little clip of our Mishnah. It has something related, Ralph, to our Mishnah, and the Gemara. And look how the Gemara does it. Tanan Hatan. We learned in the Mishnah over there. Shavuot, there are two cases in the Torah where the Torah talks about morning asaf. The Torah talks about if a person goes ahead and he makes an oath and he swears about something that he's going to do, he or she is going to do, and they do not keep the oath. A very serious prohibition by not keeping the oath. And the Torah says there is a certain he has to go ahead and bring a certain korban, certain offering as an atonement for not keeping his oath. Now, it happens to be the offering that he brings is based on a person's financial scale. Certain people can't afford certain things. They would bring lower level uh, animals and lower, less expensive based on people's financial. So that is some of the laws of a guy, excuse me, who says an oath and he does not keep his oath. Now, the case of the Torah is when a person swears. The open case of the Torah is regarding the future. He says, "I'm going to do something in the future," and the Torah's case, the language of the Torah is he uttered an oath, lahara or lahetiv. He uttered an oath regarding something bad for him, something that's negative for himself, or something regarding something he's going to do that's positive. The classic case would be negative would be I'm not going to eat. He wants to put himself in some sort of, you know, fasting of some sort. I'm not going to eat tomorrow. And something good, he says, I'm going to eat tomorrow, right? That's the more positive thing, eat and not eat, right? So that would be a type of case that the Torah says if a person swore that he's going to do this act in the future, and he doesn't do it, now he's obligated to bring this offering. If he's wealthy, if he can afford it, if he's wealthy, he can bring a certain sheep or a certain goat. If he's poor, he brings some turtle doves or two pigeons. And if he's extremely poor, he brings flour, which is the most cheapest type of, can't get less than that, as an offering of flour. Flour. Now, the cases of the Torah that are of the Torah is talking about future. He swears about something that he's going to do in the future. But there is another verse, there's another pasuk that we learn from, that it's not only referring to if he swears falsely about what he's going to do and he doesn't keep his word in the future, it also equally will apply to someone who swears about something that happened in the past and it didn't happen. If he swore, I ate yesterday, and we have witnesses, we were with us the whole day, you did not eat anything. You were with us from morning till night. Or the guy goes ahead and he swears that he didn't eat yesterday, and we have witnesses that saw you ate. So the guy clearly, whatever the case is, when it's clear that he went ahead and he violated his oath, so there also equally will be the um, will be an obligation to bring these offerings. So that's what the Mishnah, that's what the Gemara opens up. Tanahata. Shavuot, regarding Shavuot, Shavuot is a language of oath. He swears, made a Shavuot. He swore. Shavuot, Shtayim, Shehen Arba. There are two cases when it comes to Shavuot of oaths that are biblically prohibited, that are biblically written in the Torah, Shehin Arba, but really there's another two that we could also learn out from one of the verses, from an extra word in the Pasuk, that is another two cases on a biblical level. So in contrast to our Mishnah in Shabbat, where we said two that are carrying, by taking from one domain to another, which we said there's two cases that are really four, which we said there are two cases that are forbidden on a Torah level, with an additional two cases on a rabbinic level, here, which the total four is two and two biblical, two rabbinic. However, here, this Mishnah is talking about two that are four that are all biblical, but except the two that are biblical, the first two are written openly in the pasuk, in the verse, and another two are written not openly, but the two is from the additional word or something in the verse. So you could have something that's biblical, but not openly stated black and white, but alluded to or is the intention of the by writing that extra word or something. So that's what the Gemara says. Tananatan, Adam is declared. Asaf? Getting it. Okay. Tananatan. Shavuot Shtayim Shein Arba. There are two written in the Torah. You got it, David? Say it again. Shein Arba. Right. This goes on this little line. That is Now you turn the page. There are two that are for, and then the Mishnah continues. Now we're turning the page. Yidiot hatumah. We are now on Bet Amabet. 2B1. Yeah, that was Rashi. Yes, very good. Shtayim. Then we have Yidiot hatumah. Now, what is Yidiot hatumah? Yidiot hatumah is a person who became contaminated, right? Let's say he came in contact with a dead animal, which would contaminate the person. And he forgot. I forgot that I was tameh. I forgot that I came in contact with a dead animal, or came in contact with a dead body, and he's contaminated for 7 days, right? He went to a funeral. He was in the building, in the tent with the dead body, and he's contaminated for 7 days. And then on day 5, he forgot that I'm contaminated. He has to put the ashes of paraduma on him. It's a whole process, but he forgot. He forgot that he was contaminated, and then he ate food that was holy food from an offering. You can't eat holy food from an offering if you are contaminated. You have to wait till you're purified. Or he entered the Beit HaMikdash. He forgot that he was contaminated, and he entered the Beit HaMikdash. That's a big no-no. You can't enter the Beit HaMikdash. Like today's politics, with the Har HaBayit, going to the Har HaBayit, there's a lot of issues. Halachically, people are not supposed to be going to certain those places, because there's issues of contamination that we have not removed that level of contamination. And people should, and we hold that the places are still holy. You can't be going there. Now there are Orthodox Zionistic Jews that take people to these places. They think it's enough to just go to the mikveh. But the rabbis, 95% of the rabbis, 99%, most of the rabbis are very upset that they should not be going to certain areas because we're still considered tamei. We come in contact with dead bodies. Even though the Beit HaMikdash is not there, it's still holy. Just like the Kotel is still holy. There's no Beit HaMikdash, and we go to the Kotel. What are we going to the Kotel? What the Kotel is the wall that's a remnant wall. Right? But it's it's a place, but the Beit HaMikdash was once there. The divine presence has not left. It's still a very holy place. Right, they did not go that. It's a new thing to go. They did not go all the way close. They went to the Kotel. Certain areas that had no problem and very special to go. You look at the old classic pictures, from the early 1900s. You'll see in that little area, the old rabbi sitting on the floor or whatever. The women also going, what I recall, some of the old pictures, but not all the way by, certain places that are too far in, too far. So that people have to be aware of that. So here the guy went ahead and he forgot that he was contaminated and he entered the Beit HaMikdash. By the way, the level of punishment for going to such a place intentionally is a very serious, it's like correct, caught up from the next world. It's a very serious. Now, the fact that there's maybe one opinion that says today you could go there does not mean you should go follow that one opinion. But you have so many people, David, there's so many, in the vast majority of the rabbis, the Chafetz Chaim, all the rabbis, Chafetz Chaim and Vadi Yosef, they're all against it. All mainstream, call it mainstream, or the accepted leaders, Chafetz Chaim, Vadi Yosef, whatever, though they all are against people going to these places. Right, yeah, but he wouldn't go. He wouldn't have gone to such a mosque. But the mosque is that area of the mosque, right? Yeah, but there's certain areas that they take tours and they go but a Har HaBayit, there's certain areas, and that's a problem. So when you go to Israel, don't go to some of those. Even they can be led by religious people, but they're not. They're a minority opinion. You're playing with fire. Why should you go with that's not the accepted opinion? It's not the accepted opinion. The fact that there is an opinion that says that it's not holy anymore and you can go there, whatever that opinion says, doesn't mean that you should rely on it. So now we have a situation, a guy, Yidio Tatuma, the word Yidia means you knew. Morning. You knew you were Tameh, you knew you were contaminated, and you forgot. Sometimes in life you forget, I knew I had something in my pocket, and I forgot I had something in my pocket, right? So we check our pockets if you live in a place where you're not allowed to carry. If you check your pockets before you go out on Shabbat. Why? Because one time you knew I check my pockets every Friday before Shabbat. Because it's possible I might have something in my pocket. I knew there was something, but I forgot. So I got to check my pocket before I leave the house, right? So here, I knew I was contaminated. The guy knew that he was contaminated, but then he forgot that he was contaminated. And therefore, as a result of him forgetting, he went into the Beit HaMikdash. He went to the holy place, or he ate something that was holy. And he has to bring an offering. He has to bring an offering as atonement for forgetting that he was contaminated. Those are two cases. By the way, I want to remind you to say the Birkat Torah before you. What? Yeah, you said it right. Great. So those are two cases that are written openly in the Torah. But then there's another two cases that are not written openly, but because infer it from the language of the verse what's the other two cases? I know I'm tameh. I know I'm contaminated, but you know what? I forgot that this is holy food. I forgot, I have holy food, from the offering. I have non-holy food and I have holy food. And I forgot that this food is holy and I can't eat the food that's holy when I'm in a state of contamination. Or I didn't realize that this area was by the Beit HaMikdash was actually an area that was holy that I could not go to in my state of contamination. I forgot. Right. Okay. You could say right. You could say mistaken. Right. Right. He knew right here. This case, he knew you. I know I'm tamei. I didn't realize this is the holy place. This is the holy area that I can't go to. I didn't realize that this is holy food. I forgot. Or I didn't realize. You know. So that's another additional two cases of that I have to bring an offering. I have to bring a korban, and I have to bring an offering for for that act of either not knowing, forgetting that I'm contaminated. How did you forgot you're contaminated? And as a result of that, you entered the Beit HaMikdash. You forgot you were contaminated and you ate holy food. Why did you forget that you're contaminated? Why aren't you on top of your game? You know, you can't forget that you're contaminated and just go into the Beit HaMikdash. Meaning, if you would have known that you were contaminated and you went to the Beit HaMikdash, there will be a very serious sin. So you shouldn't forget that as a Jew, you have to know what status you're in. If you don't know what status you're in, you're doing a sin by entering the holy Beit HaMikdash in a state of contamination. You gotta the same way you can't forget you can't forget today is Shabbat. I can't forget. I can't make a coffee on Shabbat, meaning make coffee, turn on the fire, and make a coffee, heat up the water. How do you forget it's Shabbat? I always tell them, do you ever forget your name? Don't forget your name. You forget it's Shabbat. I mean, you like that example. There's something missing. There's something missing. You have to you have to know what's what in life. So too, if you have to know that this is a holy place. You have to know this is holy food. So the fact that you know you're contaminated, you got to know what you're doing. What's around you. You got to know what you're eating. If you're contaminated, you got to make sure you're not eating things that are holy. And you didn't know. It's okay. So you got to bring up. We're not going to knock you out from the next world because you didn't know. That's not. But we're going to give you a way of doing atonement. You have to go ahead and bring an offering. You bring a korban. Just like if a guy desecrates the Shabbat unintentionally, what does he do? The guy went ahead and cooked something on Shabbat. I didn't know I can't cook. I didn't know I can't make boil up water on Shabbat. I didn't know that. The guy said I didn't know that. So you got to go ahead and bring a sin offering. Good morning for not knowing. We're not going to. We're not going to give the guy korah. He's not going to be knocked out from the next world. We're not going to give him lashes for it. But it's unintentional. There's no such thing as lashes, malchus, for something you do unintentionally. But it's true you did it unintentionally, but you won't get lashes, but you have to bring a korban. You have to bring an offering. So that's two more. Now, then the Mishnah says, Yitziot Shabbat Shtayim Shehin Arba. When it comes to the Yitziot of Shabbat, which is Yitzia means to go out. To go out, taking an item, here refers to taking an item from private domain to a public domain. Or taking it, that would be considered going out. So here, the Mishnah, now our Mishnah in Shabbat, the first Mishnah in Shabbat discusses, we learned about, there are two biblical cases for the guy on the inside to violate Shabbat, and there's two cases that the guy on the outside, Morning Jack, could violate Shabbat. And then there's an additional two rabbinic cases that the guy on the inside violates the Shabbat, and there are two additional rabbinic cases that the guy on the outside could violate the Shabbat. So that's what we said in the Masechta Shabbat. We mentioned four cases for the guy on the inside, and four cases, Morning Mr. Haber, for the guy on the outside. So we mentioned, that's what we mentioned regarding Shabbat. But here, in this Masechta of Shavuot, in the Masechta of Shavuot, it doesn't say there are two cases biblical and two rabbinic for each guy. It only says there are two cases that are for the Shehin Arba. There are two cases that are equal four cases. And what does it mean, two cases that are four cases over here? So there are two cases that are openly in the Torah. The two cases that are openly in the Torah that we learn out from the Torah's law, that you can't, the Torah says, don't take out. Don't take out. We learn out from the pasuk that clearly you can't carry from private to public. And there are two cases of carrying from private to public. Either the guy on the inside, if I'm on the inside, if I hand it to the guy on the outside, that's going from private to public. Then there's another case, private to public, if the guy on the outside sticks his hand inside and takes something from the inside and brings it outside. Those are two cases that are biblically prohibited from going from inside to outside. But there's another two cases that are biblically prohibited if you go from outside inside. Take an item that's outside, the guy standing outside hands it to the guy inside, or the guy on the outside sticks his hand inside and takes something from the inside and puts it outside. So that would be the case of inside to outside. But there's two cases or the guy on the inside sticks his hand outside, takes something outside and brings it inside. So there are two cases that going from inside outside, two cases going outside inside. But the cases of the Torah that are openly in the Torah, you can't carry from inside out. And then there's another two cases that we learn that's also biblically prohibited, outside in. That's what the Mishnah states in Shavuot. And the last thing the Mishnah states is marot negaim. If a person has a nega, if a person has a certain type of skin color, the color change, sarat, leprosy. So there are shnayim. There are also two cases that are written openly in the Torah, two types of colors that are forbidden are openly in the Torah, certain level of white. And then there's also shein arba. There's another two colors that we learn out that are not written openly in the Torah that are also equally called a nega, also called sarat. Because the Torah talks about, so that would be also a case to be of four cases of sarat. Now, what's interesting about all these cases here, these are all biblical cases, in contrast to the Mishnah and Shabbat, where two are biblical, two are rabbinic. And the only thing is, what's the united theme in all these cases is there are two that are written openly in the Torah, and there's another two that are written a biblical law, but they're not written, Gary, openly in the Torah. Right. So what the Gemara will see tomorrow is why this Mishnah in Shavuot only mentions regarding Shabbat two that are four, and it doesn't say the way we say it in Shabbat, two that are four for the guy inside, the two that are 4 for the guy outside. Why does it only measure 2 or 4 once, not two that are 4 for both the guy on the inside, guy outside? I want to wish everyone a beautiful day. See everybody tomorrow, hopefully. Ralph, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Different time zones. It's an hour.